2 of United Soccer Coaches Convention here in Anaheim, California. Omer said Pennsylvania. That is not the case. But the convention's been going terrific here in California. The weather has been a lot better than it is on the East Coast, so cannot complain about that. Met a lot of great people so far throughout the convention, and I know you guys have had a couple guests on. I've had some guests on, and it only gets better with this next guest coming onto the podcast. And he might say, slow down real quick. But I would say, he's a world-renowned throwing coach, Mr. Thomas Gronnemark. Thomas, how you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. We're talking, getting used to jet lag and everything. You've been here a lot shorter than we have, so we're a little bit more adjusted than you. But, when you're surrounded with this many coaches all over the world, it's like, how can you be tired? Like, you got to be awake. You're making all these connections. And so we're doing good energy-wise.
That is fantastic.
How are you guys doing?
We're good. We're good. Had first good interview, so we're excited for that. And just the learning and the networking here, and meeting people like yourself, Thomas, it's just been phenomenal. So,
yeah, it's been a great experience so far, learning a lot.
So for any Union fans that are unaware of who you are, Thomas, anytime I have a first-time guest onto the podcast, I always like to start with, how'd you get involved with football or soccer like we call it here in the States?
Yeah, to make a long story short, I've been playing soccer myself in the High Shoot 19 League in Denmark, where I come from. Then I changed sport in the mid-90s to track and field. I came on the Danish national team running 100, 200, 400 meter and relays, and I was there for 6 years. And then I changed sport again in 2002 to the Danish national bobsleigh team. And I was there from 2002 to 2006, traveling all around the world, the whole Europe, Canada, the States, and so it was fantastic. And it was in the middle of that bobsleigh period in 2004 where we played an indoor soccer match against a German bobsleigh team because we had a cooperation with them. And suddenly I did a long throw in because that was my specialty as a soccer player myself, and they were all really impressed about that. And then I thought, hey, if I can make a good throw in, kind of teach soccer players to do it. So I went down to my local library in January 2004 to find a book about throw-ins. But there was no books at all, so yeah, I searched the internet too, nothing there. So I made my own course with video analysis and so on. I could have been starting with a youth amateur team, but I had the courage to ask a local Super League team in Denmark, Viborg. And they said yes, they improved their throw-ins a lot, scored a lot of throwing goals, had their best placement ever in the club's history. So the season after, it was FC Midtjylland. And then in early 2007, I discovered that one of my teams, Silkeborg from the Danish Super League, they lost the ball all the time at throw-ins. So I looked at the Premier League also, Champions League, Bundesliga in Germany and and I realized that almost all teams were really bad at throwing. So I started working with the fast and clever throw-in. So all in all, you can say that's the throw-ins all around the pitch, how to create space, how to have different solutions, how to scan, how to take the ball from the opponents when they have a throw-in. So I thought about, hey, I'm getting my international breakthrough here in a year or so, but no one wanted my knowledge around the fast and clever throw-ins. So I still continue to coach long throw-ins with Danish Super League teams, but then in July 2018, Jurgen Klopp, the manager from Liverpool FC, called me directly on the phone to ask me for help for the throw-ins because Liverpool were really bad. So that was my international breakthrough, and I coached Liverpool FC 5 seasons, winning Champions League, Premier League, and yeah, all in all, I've been coaching 35 pro clubs or national teams / federations. So yeah, it's only throw-ins. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, set pieces, I think, are so underrated in the game. And your involvement with the Union came in 2022, I believe it was. And we talked last night. Yeah, there was a dip this season in 2023 with the Union and throw-ins. And I'm sure you see that all the times after you start working with clubs, they don't prioritize throw-ins anymore. But the one thing that we love about the Union is they love innovation. That's one of their 3 pillars to success. And why not bring in a throwing coach to help make a big impact? And going back to Liverpool, that's a huge deal. Having Jurgen Klopp personally call you up and say, hey, come to Liverpool, we need help with throw-ins. And I think the biggest player that you improved there was Joe Gomez, you would say?
No, actually not. Yes, he improved his long throw-in a lot, had a world-class long throw-in, but actually in Liverpool we focused much more on the fast and clever throw-ins. And in the season before I came to Liverpool, they had a possession on 45.4% on throw-ins under pressure where the players are marked, and they were actually only number 18 out of 20 in the Premier League on throw-ins, so third last. But in my first season, we improved to 68.4% and went from number 18 to number 1 in the Premier League. Also on throw-ins, under pressure. Also number 2 in the whole Europe, just after one of my other teams, FC Midtjylland. So of course I shared that statistic a lot, you know. But just to say that my best results with Liverpool was like the whole team, but because it's not only the throwers, it's also the outfield players, how they in many different ways can create space depending on the opponent's defending patterns and other things, you know, taking great decisions. And in Liverpool, we didn't use the long throw-in as a set-piece weapon. We do in some of my other teams, but we scored. In the 5 seasons I coached Liverpool, we scored 10 to 15 goals after throwing situations all around the pitch. So like directly, not after 45 seconds, but directly afterwards. So yes, back again to your question, or what you said is that, the biggest improvement in Liverpool was actually more the team itself.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I mean, as a coach, it doesn't get bigger than that winning the Champions League. In players too, like, I mean, here in Philadelphia, the players always say we want to go to Europe, we want to play for the biggest clubs, and here you are winning the Champions League. But then you ask the Liverpool fans, they probably wanted the Premier League a little bit more than the Champions League, and that was huge for the fans back then.
Yeah, it was totally crazy. Again, like you say yourself, it's like normally the Champions League is bigger than the Premier League because it's all the best teams in Europe. But it was 30 years ago that when we won the championship that Liverpool had won it last time. So, you know, thousands of fans have been writing directly to me, and also like sometimes I've met people like physically, you know, where I went, and I can remember one time just after we won the Premier League that I met a guy around 70 years old, and so I came out of a supermarket. He like looked after me inside, and then he said to me when I came out, "Come here." And then when I came closer to him, he started crying, you know, totally. And then he pulled his shirt off. It was like in the summer. And then he had a like big Liverpool FC tattoo. And then, he said, I've been waiting for this for 30 years. So, it's been, no matter, you know, I've been a part of 14 titles in international football. Of course, also with that Eastern Conference title with Philadelphia Union, I count that too because that was important for me. I had a fantastic stay in Philadelphia Union. I had like 3 visits, pre-season training camp in Clearwater, Florida. Then I had 2 times in Philadelphia, April 22, September 22. And I know it's not to bring it all up again, but it was those 5 seconds and that goal from Gareth Bale, you know, almost. And I was sitting like, because I couldn't see it, so I was sitting on live score in Denmark, you know, oh man. But you know, I had a fantastic time at Philadelphia Union. I love Philadelphia because I'm also really interested in history and so on. And both times when I was in Philadelphia, like a week, each time I was living in the old town, you know, at a hotel there. So when I didn't coach out in Chester, I was just like walking around the city all the time, you know. It was just like, wow. So I love it.
So, Thomas, like with throw-ins, obviously it's a set skill, like it's a learning skill. What ways, having been a throw-in coach, have you seen that players can improve? Like just simple things. Like, is there like how go through how you kind of train the soccer players with throw-ins?
Yeah, first of all my coaching, it's tailor-made, both for the playing style, for the formation and other wishes and players' individual skills, strengths and weaknesses. And for example, you can say that Liverpool played a 4-3-3. You can do specific things with that. I coach sometimes teams who play with 3 in the back. You can have strengths and weaknesses with that. In Philadelphia Union played the 4-4-2 diamond. And of course you can do specific things there. You also have to have individual considerations there. But the way I work, so what we used a lot with Philadelphia Union was especially the counter-attack throw-in, because you can't be offside in the throw-in. And then we used the long throw-in a lot to, like, I can't remember how many goals we scored in the long throw-in, but quite a few that season. So, and of course we also did other things, but that was like the main things. So the way I work is like to talk about I have my long, fast and clever throw-in philosophy, but that is built up in, first of all, like the basic things around specific throwing tools, return pass, good distance, creating big boxes, side pass so you can break the lines, team space creation so you can create different kind of spaces, not only one thing. Then the second level, that's like small-sided games that can be specific for a theme, but it could also be specific for a zone. So you can learn those tools and the scanning and the space creation and take that in a more like, how can you say, competitive area. And then the third level, that's like the zones, like 3 different zones. What can you do in the different zones? And I'm also taking consideration the formation and playing style there before I tailor make that coaching there. So that's the way I do it. So that's like the basic thing. So before I come to each club, I'm analyzing throw-ins from 1, 2, 3 games, depending on what we agree on. And then before I come to the club, I know the strengths and weaknesses. I did that with Philadelphia Union too. So when I arrive in a club, I normally do a talk around throw-ins in general, also including some of the clips from the club itself. And then afterwards, I'm doing like tailor-made throwing coaching on the pitch, and the time there is like normally per session 30 to 60 minutes. So I could easily coach the whole session, of course, and like 10 days in a row or so. But teams are also doing other things while I'm there. So and then of course, again, the concept of the training. Sometimes I'm coaching all players. Sometimes I'm coaching three groups of 7. Specific things. It could also be, for example, in Philadelphia Union, again, we focused on the long throw-in too as a set-piece weapon. It could also be technical training for the players too. So so that's the way it looks. And then of course, then afterwards, I'm looking at throw-ins again, the analysis, and seeing where are we now, what can we improve. And of course, I'm a freelancer, so I'm not there all the time. And my job would be, to be honest, much easier if I was there full time, coaching every day, because a lot of people then might think, okay, throwing coaching each day. Yes, of course, if you did long throwing coaching each day, it would be like, but most of my coaching drills, they can be included in normal soccer coaching. So it's more like the principles you have to be aware of depending on playing style. And so again, a lot of the drills that my teams are already doing, I'm just converting them into throwing coaching drills. Of course, I have a lot of my own. I also have an online course, I just made here in August with already like 27 coaches from 27 countries are in it, yeah. So a lot of them from the US too. So that's the way my coaching is working, also in Philadelphia Union.
Yeah, so I mean, just this past season, I don't know if you guys realized this or paid attention to it, but Olivier Baiza, one of the right backs for the Union, every time they would get close to the right corner flag, he would always wind up for that long throw and always throw at the near post, hoping that somebody flicks it on and then you have an easy goal. Maybe a couple goals they scored off of that, but that's the same way that they take their corner kicks, is they always aim for that near post, get that flick on, and then you never know what's going to happen. And set pieces in soccer are just such an underrated part of the game. And like you said, I mean, that's the whole reason why you started, is because teams are bad at throw-ins. And I don't mean to put this guy under the bus, but Kai Wagner had a foul throw-in this year. I don't know if you guys remember that. How does that make you feel as a throwing coach when it's a foul throw-in?
It's really depending on why it's called, because one thing is that I'm improving the players' long throw-in, so we can, because the longer it is, the greatest chance of scoring. Of course, there are some strategies. If you're only doing the same thing all the time, it's not so dangerous. So you have to. I'm doing that, for example, with Brentford in Premier League. They scored a lot of goals the last couple of seasons after long throw-ins, and a lot of chances too. So, but when I see a fault throw-in, it can be in different reasons. First of all, it can actually be, it is a foul throw-in. For example, lift the last leg or like release it. Don't take it behind your head, but like start it from here, then release it like this, something like that. But it can also be called, even though it's legal, just because it looks weird. And that might sound weird again, but the ref, he or she has like a tenth of a second to see if is that illegal, and if it looks weird, he or she can call it.
Yeah.
So it's also really important for me that to not only to make it legal, but also to make it look legal. And that's like actually 2 different things. For example, I have my local club in Denmark where I live, like a second league team who got promoted after I came there, and they had a guy who could throw pretty far. But first of all, I made him throw much further, but he also had a tendency to lift the last leg. But he actually did it after he released the ball. But when you looked at it in real time, it looked like a foul throw-in. So I had to change that, because imagine scoring a goal on a long throw-in, and then the ref is like, it can cost you a match, but also a season, So So yes, on one hand, of course, you don't want to see that. But on the other hand, I also think that people have a tendency to take out single throw-ins and then either make them really bad, like a foul throw-in. Wow, it's the worst in the world. It can happen for everyone. That's one thing. But it's also the opposite. If you make a great throw-in, then you're often thinking, wow, that's the best team in the world. No, if you have a game, of course there are some teams who are really bad, but in a game you'll probably from all teams have both good throw-ins and bad ones. Of course, the majority had to be good, yeah. So.
One of the things I noticed, especially in 2022 when you were working with them, was the improvement in Nate Ariel. His throw-ins, we were at a game against New York City FC, and it's a narrower field. Obviously, it's not your normal MLS size. It's a real narrow
It's a baseball field. Let's call it what it is.
Basically on a baseball field.
Yeah.
So they were like, it made look, but the one thing I noticed throughout the year was his long throws into the box were like spot on. Is there a specific drill you work on, or how does that do to like the placement of long throw-ins? Because when I played, I just launched as far as I could, no placement. Like,
Yeah, so first of all, I'll say Nathan, he improved a lot.
Yeah.
I have the numbers on my computer, of course, but as I remember, it was like 7-8 meters or so. So he went from okay to like world class. So you're totally right. You can also throw very far in different ways. Some are throwing like a rocket where you can see they can just control that ball, It has like a perfect angle coming like a rocket. And that's a little bit like Nathan. You can also sometimes have people who are throwing far, but you can see sometimes they're throwing really far. The other time they're throwing medium. Then they're throwing good. Then, So but he had a really good technique. So he got a natural technique. So the way I'm working is that I'm having 30 different technical parameters. It's not like I'm coaching 30 different things at one time, but for example, the first time at Philadelphia Union, also in my other clubs, I scanned all the players, and then in the first session, I focused on like 4 or 5 different technical things, and then of course we want to have the fullback into that, the next session there. I did the first one in Clearwater, Florida, in the preseason training camp in January, February 22, and then after that, in the second session, we select a group, and then after that I focus on more individual stuff, because it would be stupid to coach someone in things they're already good at. If they master that, we don't want them to be too confused. So in all my clubs, also Philadelphia Union, from the second session is much more individual based. So then I'm looking at the video analysis, and for some it can be something with the hip, it could be distance with the feet, it could be the running, it could be the grip, a lot of different things. When do you follow through? How much power do you create over the line? Are you jumping? So many things. So that's individual. I'm normally still coaching as a group, but then I show videos to the players individually before the session, showing something on the pitch individually too. So that's the way it works.
Who, if you don't mind sharing, who in the Union got in contact with you? Was it Ernst Tanner, Jim Curtin? Do you even remember?
I think it was, as I remember, it was Ernst, but I can't even remember. I'll just say that I had a fantastic year with the Union, both with Ernst, with Jim, all the other coaches. I also had a long chat with Sugarman too.
Yeah.
So he's a really innovative guy, and I'm also a guy who's like doing a lot around innovation. I do a lot of talks around innovation. For example, last year in 23, I had a talk at Howard Medical School for some students with emergency medics too. I had one at MIT. I'm doing a lot in Denmark, in Stockholm, Sweden, Oslo, Norway. So I'm really working with innovation. I'm also writing a book about reinventing yourself, not only as individual person, but also as a company. And so when I sat down with Jay, it's Jay. He's called Jay Sugarman. Yeah, I was like feeling like we're a little bit, how can you say, the same. Of course, he's a really successful businessman, but like mentally seeing new things, and so I really love the approach Philadelphia Union has, and I think it's also important not only for you as a person, but also as a soccer team, as a company, to be innovative. Because again, I don't know everything about the economy, in the MLS, but as I have heard it, it's not Philadelphia Union who has the most money, you
No.
know. So if you don't have that, you have to, if you want to punch above your weight, you say that in America too?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So if you want that, one of the best ways is to be innovative. It's not that you have to take everything, you know, oh, it's new, it's fantastic. It doesn't mean that. But you have to do analysis and say, where are weakness? How can we train that? And they did that by inviting me. So I was really satisfied with the throw-ins improvement. Of course, it's always good to come in a club several years because, like, let's say Liverpool 5 years, Brentford 4 years, Toulouse in France it was 3 years, Brighton 3 years. So many teams have been in many years, and it could always be cool to come to Philadelphia Union again. But the best way you can see my influence is the results, because a lot of people, when they say, oh, you have a throwing coach, then they're just looking at long throwings all the time. What I'm saying to people, the best way you can see the influence is to look at the results, because most of my teams, they are delivering fantastic results. I've been a part of 14 titles in international football, a lot of promotion, a lot of teams punching above their weight. So if you want to judge my work, you have to look at the results, and I don't think that many would disagree that Philadelphia had a really good 22 season there, like 5 seconds from the MLS Cup. And the reason why, of course, my coaching is affecting all the throw-ins. You have 40 to 60 throw-ins in a match, using approximately 20 minutes on throwing related situations in a soccer match, so it's a lot. But my coaching is also normally affecting other things too. For example, I work a lot with fast throwing, so it means that it will also often affect like fast thinking at corners and fast thinking at free kicks, fast thinking at normal marking. A lot of the things I'm doing is like scanning awareness, but it's also communication. Let's say when you have to mark the opponents at a throw-in, and even though it's hard to measure, they'll for sure transfer that a lot to other things in soccer. So again, if you want to look at my influence, of course, there are some throw-in specific things you can see with possession, goals scored. But for me, the best way is to look at the results of the team who are hiring me.
Yeah, so I guess it's safe to say, I mean, you were there 3 times with the Union. Did you get a sense that it's really like a family? Because I think, before I got into covering the team, like going to my very first game, after the whistle, the players are coming over to you, shaking your hand, taking pictures, signing autographs. And it's like, you don't get that in any of the other major sports here in America. It's like they go straight down to the locker room. But it really feels like it's a family-oriented club. And covering the team, being in the locker room, like, you still get that sense. Like, no, they're not putting on a show. And so I guess working with the club, did you feel that same way?
Yeah, I felt it a lot. And I can say I also see that in other clubs. Of course, I'm coaching many professional soccer clubs. And some places you can see that we have a really good player, several good players, but they have like gigantic egos. And you can say, yes, that player might contribute with assist or goals or great defending. But I can just say that a lot of the clubs who have success, they have really strong relations. And you can see, let's take Liverpool again, that the bonds there, the relations, it's just meaning so much. And people were like really scouted because of their, leadership abilities, or their, the human abilities and relationship abilities too. And I felt that with Philadelphia Union, again, I was welcome like a part of the family. And especially if you come, even though I'm like a really open-minded guy who's like to talk with a lot of people, but still you're coming as a guest,
Yeah.
And even though I try the best to be kind and create relations myself, it's not necessarily that you're welcome like a part of family, no matter where you come, So, but I felt that in Philadelphia Union. So I think they're doing a really great work there all around in the club. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it starts with the manager. I mean, Jurgen Klopp. I mean, I guess we'll put it on the podcast right here for you. I'm a United fan, so it pains me to enjoy the success that Jurgen Klopp has, but it's like he gets the most out of his players. He's, whether you like him or not, he's a really, really good manager. He gets the most out of his players, and it's always, the club before himself. And it's the same thing with Jim Curtin in Philadelphia. It's the club before Jim. And Jim said it a couple months ago. He said, this club's still going to exist once I'm out of this club. It's like you play for the badge, and you get that from Jurgen Klopp. You get that from Jim Curtin, that, yes, they understand that, I might be a good manager, but the club was here before me, and the club's going to be here after me. And, that's great to hear that you said that you felt the love from the Union. Now, the next question I was going to ask you was when you come in as a guest, as you said, do players like, are they like, why are we doing this? Why are we wasting our time? Or are they open to the ideas of, okay, yeah, let's improve our throw-ins?
Yeah, normally they're really open, and the reason why is that first of all, if I'm at a club where they're focused on the long throw-ins, you know, you can have a player who's like bad at throwing lengths, and then like after 30 minutes of training, they're suddenly world class sometimes, you know. And of course, as a player, that's a weapon. So of course, with the long throwing coaching, they're really motivated. And then with the fast and clever throwing coaching, I try to make it really entertaining, you know, with goals and competitions and everything. Of course, I have to learn something. So it's always a balance between not being too boring, then you learn too much, but you also don't want to be too fun, you know, because they're not reflecting. So that's always a balance. But I try to make it entertaining. So I feel there's a lot of motivated players when they're doing throwing coaching.
Yeah, especially when you're scoring goals off of it. It makes them want to continue doing it. When you see, okay, it's one thing doing it in practice, but when it's coming off in the game, it's like, wow, Thomas knew what he was talking about. Jim Curtin knew what he was talking about. Jurgen knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
So,
yes, and that's a big advantage, and that's also an advance for me that I've been part of Liverpool or other big clubs with the titles and so. But because it's a little bit for the players, where if the club invite me, you know, a guy who's been at successful teams, you also think that, wow, you know, he can make a difference for us. Because it was, of course, much harder for me to be accepted that way. If I was like totally unknown, then you have to prove yourself. But I'm a little bit lucky that I have proved myself. Of course, always when you come into a new culture, you have to like go in and like try to be a part. You know, it's also a part of the work. But again, I think that most both players and staff and fans are open-minded when I come.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, set pieces are just so underrated in the game, and again, going back to the Union, I mean, they hired a couple of seasons ago Frank Lice, a set piece coach, to improve their set piece. And like you said, the Union are in the top 5 lowest spending teams in MLS. And so, okay, if you're not going to spend with the Inter Miamis, the LAFCs, you got to find ways how to take advantage of the little aspects in the game. And throw-ins help. Bringing in a set piece coach, just paying attention to little details. And we've seen it the last 5 years with the Union, just the difference these coaches have made. And you've made a huge difference with the Union. And you've made a difference when all the clubs that you've went with all over the world, and I'm sure that's going to continue. Do you have any other clubs, you know, coming up that you potentially going to work with here in America, or?
Not in America. I'll say I'm open-minded for all clubs around the world. So, but also in MLS or like the lower leagues in the States, who also women, because for example, I coached the English women before the World Cup here at St. George Park in England in June, and they actually scored a throwing goal in the semi-final where they won silver because they lost to Spain, but of course that was great. So I'm open to work with pros, I'm open to work with men, with women, with boys, with girls, and then I also hope in the future that I can also like go to tours, for example, coming to an area. It could be like New York, Philadelphia, Washington area, something like that. Then
history.
visit, for example, let's say 4 or 5, 6 colleges, high schools in like 14 days or so. That's one of my big dreams, because I love America. I love the approach you have to sports and just to come and see new places. So and it's really important for me to say that yes, it's fantastic to win titles and be part of the best clubs in the world. But for me, the most important thing is to make a change in the soccer world, so to have better throw-ins. Because I talk with just here these days here, you know, everybody I talk with is say, we're struggling with throw-ins. So one thing is, as a coach, you're struggling. One thing is also that you are struggling as a team. But perhaps the most important thing is the players' welfare too. I'm talking with a lot of players, also adult players, who said like, okay, 10 or 20 years ago, I took the throw-ins, and I was so bad, and I got all the blame, you know. And then I'm saying to them, no matter if it's men or women, I'm saying it's also highest like not because you were bad, but because you don't have a good enough strategy, because the outfield players weren't creating high quality space. Then you didn't have many choices, you know. So again, it's also because of players' welfare. Of course, sometimes you try to make a good throw-in, then the the opponents are taking the ball from you. That's good defending. But I want to get rid of the shitty throw-ins for entertainment, for players' welfare, and of course also for success in general in soccer. So I hope to come many times to the States. So if someone hears this here, I'm open-minded to everybody. I'm not only coaching the best teams, I'm also traveling the world for smaller teams or several teams in a period, yeah.
So what you're saying is if Manchester United came and said, hey, we want to hire you, even though you had that relationship with Liverpool, you'd go?
Yeah, because, yes, I had 5 years in Liverpool, but I'm not there now, and I'm not theirs forever. Of course, I would never train United and Liverpool in the same season. So again, I'm open-minded. For me, it's about making a difference in the soccer world. And by the way, and you mentioned again, yes now, but also earlier Manchester United, and actually coached Ajax together with Erik ten Hag. I was a year with Erik ten Hag. So I actually got his number on the phone. So if I was cheeky enough, or we could make a live call to him, I don't know if he answers now, but why not? Because I think that's again, I'm working a lot with innovation also for companies, but also in life in general. And I think one of the biggest challenges is that we are setting boundaries for knowledge, for connections, because we say, you're not like me, you shouldn't have my knowledge because I am who I am and I only want to share the knowledge with you over there. That's crazy, So a lot of the solutions, challenges we have in the world could be solved by that people are better at sharing knowledge and helping each other. And also across countries. And so, we could solve, not in a year or so, but with pollution, the climate, things like that, if people are better to cooperate, we can say in Denmark, we don't pollute so much, we're really green. On the other hand, you can say we also polluting a lot in the air with CO2 and so. But on the other hand, we should look a lot about how can we, for example, help Poland, who are still using old sources of energy, and so they're polluting a lot. Or how could we help China? But there's so much politics in there. Also in soccer sometimes. Yeah. Also, you can say in soccer clubs too. Not all. I think it worked really well in Philadelphia Union. But sometimes in some soccer clubs, you can have a culture where it's about me who has to perform fantastically. I don't want to see my colleague do it better than me. And then you're getting fear of sharing knowledge. And then you're suddenly afraid of failing. And I also don't want to get knowledge from people because I don't want to seem weak, So again, way too long answer to a question here, but I think that sharing of knowledge, it's so important, not only in soccer, but also in the world.
Yeah, I agree with you. And again, just going back to Jim Curtin, as we're a Philadelphia Union podcast, there's just so many times Jim saying, if a coach calls me up, or he shared last year at the convention, he said, I don't have any issues giving away my secrets. He wants to make the game bigger. He wants to grow the game. And he said, he wants to help everybody learn. And so I think that's great for the sport of soccer, just continuing to grow it all around the world. And Thomas, you're definitely doing your part. And like I said, a world-renowned throwing coach might not accept that, but it's the truth. And so you're definitely making a difference. And hopefully, clubs continue to take advantage of your talents and you continue to help teams with set pieces. But where can people find you on social media? Where can they find all your work?
Yeah, you can actually find me almost anywhere. So social media like LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, I'm on that. I'm also just quite recently on TikTok. I'll also say I'm not dancing, so you don't have to be afraid of me dancing suddenly on TikTok. Then I have a homepage, thomasgronnemark.com, and there you can see everything around my online courses, my coaching in the clubs, free drills. I have some of them too. So the best way would be contact me on social media or go to my homepage, thomasgronnemark.com. And I'm a kind guy. I answer all people. So if people have a question or want to say something or just follow the journey, they're absolutely welcome to do that.
Absolutely. Well, if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow @FreeKickPod. We reach your podcast, The Free Kick, YouTube channel, youtube.com/FreeKickPod. Kyle and Jillian, where can people find you?
You can find us at The One Team We Agree on Facebook and Instagram, and on Twitter we are at TOTWAG, and we are also on YouTube at The One Team We Agree on.
And with that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.